Welcome back to this brand new special Christmas coffee tech break with Jan. I think I got another great video for you lined up today because I want to take you through as you can see the special edition today and the last edition today of the PolyOS 4.4, the last version for 2024. I think it was a great year. A lot of exciting updates to the Studio X family. I think really good. And the 4.4 really lines the groundwork for 2025. So I'm already really enthusiastic about the future coming up with the Studio X product line. So today I will, as usual, drive you through a presentation and show you all the great new features in version 4.4. You're gonna be really impressed. Looking at this already, as I said, and then to 2025, I think it's going to be a really exciting time. And yeah, I can only recommend to subscribe to my videos to keep you up to date with all those latest and greatest developments. Now, I will, besides doing the presentation, also regularly jump out of the presentation to show you some hands-on where can you find different features and functions, etc. Plus, I'm gonna make sure I will create chapters in the video. So under the video, in the description, gonna make sure you gotta have descriptions and chapters there, because I know it's not gonna be one coffee today, as the 4.4 is really an extended edition. Well, hopefully you enjoyed it. If you got any questions, comments or anything for me to feed me, just shoot it under the video and I will try to answer that as good as possible. For now, I can only say just sit back, relax, and let's get started with the presentation of version 4.4. Alright, let's get started with version 4.4. As I said, this is a really exciting version and the groundwork being made for 2025. As a lot of things are happening, especially with second generation, so there's a lot of things going on. But I will walk that all through in this video. Now, first off, we always check before any major version, and you see me taking you through this with every update, is we're checking the different versions from the video providers. Like with Zoom and with Teams, we always check the applications. If the applications are newer, we try to embed them as much as possible. But always we will do some sanity testing before we embed them. So it could at some moments that we don't have the latest and greatest embedded in the software. Well, then I always recommend to go to the different video providers, Teams Admin Center, Zoom Device Management Portal, and there you can always upgrade specifically the application to that latest version. But I will take you through that in the video, so don't worry about that. Now, the first thing, the 4.4 release. So the 4.4 release is for the Studio X series and the G family. So we have now a whole family. Oh yeah, so the Studio X family got the first generation, we got the G family, and also we got the second generation, but we also have another one, and that is the V family. So the V family is running the VideoOS Lite. And it also ends up with the 4. So we got the 4.4 for Studio X line, and we got the 1.4 with a 4 at the end for the VideoOS Lite. And VideoOS Lite is the version which is running on the V family. So V family is just a premium USB video bar specifically made to use it with BYOD in combination with the laptop, or use that in combination with a Teams room or a Zoom room, but it's only specifically a USB video bar. But you get all the greatest and greatest from the Studio X. So similar like noise block technology, like all the tracking technology, integration with PolyLens, everything is in there, also in the VideoOS Lite. And it also has a web interface. So you can connect to it locally to a device and you're able to change settings also there, besides PolyLens. So really nice time with this whole big family. Now, throughout this video, I will talk about second generation. To make sure, so we got the first generation, that is X30, X50, X70, G7500. Now, we also have the second generation, which is X32, X52 and X72 and the G62. And so I will talk about those families throughout this presentation, but I will specifically make some notes when you got a second generation, specific feature, which only works on that. I will make a note so you got a really good idea where and what works on what platform. So we got this great family now ready to go into 2025. Now, first off, what I always do is talk about upgrades and downgrades. Now let me take you through now step by step through the different upgrade options, just quickly. So first off, the local web interface. So X series as well as the G series or the V family, they all have a local web interface where you're able to connect to, and then you can upgrade the devices locally. And so you go to general settings, to device management, and there it should prompt you that it found a newer version, and there you can upgrade both your Studio X and your TC8 or TC10, and make sure to keep that up to date. Now what I recommend is check your updates during the night. So don't do any upgrades during the day because that could interfere with your production environment, but make sure you do the upgrades overnight. That is a possibility. Of course, I always recommend to use PolyLens because this gives you a great opportunity to first create a group and first test an upgrade on some of the devices, but I will take you through that a bit later. Another way to upgrade is using a USB stick. So you can download the software from PolyLens. There is a download option available there. You take it with you on a stick, you put it in the Studio X, and then you're able to upgrade from the USB stick itself. Make sure you format the stick in the FAT32 format. And so I know in Windows 11 there is a default FAT extended, which is really going beyond the 32 gigabyte. But you gotta make sure that you format it at FAT32. And FAT32 is recognized by the Studio X when you put that inside. So just one of the tips and tricks from Jan, which I've seen in the field sometimes going wrong. Now, one which is really popular with me is PolyLens. Centralized devices, even if you have a couple of devices, and then you got the ability to not only upgrade, but you can also downgrade to different versions as long as you stay within a major release. So if you are in a 4 release, you can go down. So if you run into some sort of issues and you need to go down in version, that is always a possibility inside PolyLens. If you're gonna go further back, that is of course not possible. You cannot go to version 3. You gotta stay within version 4 if you want to downgrade there. But it gives you a lot more flexibility. You can create groups, you can create a test group, first test and upgrade for a couple of weeks, see if everything works fine, and then you can upgrade the rest of your devices. This is what I really like from PolyLens. Now, then we got of course the updates coming from Teams Admin Center, and that could be a bit later because we'll always do some testing before Microsoft is releasing that release on Teams Admin Center, and same for Zoom. That is always being tested on those platforms first, and then we approve the software updates to make them available there. So just to be aware of that. These are the options to upgrade your devices. Now, looking at the sort of overview of all the builds and software that we have. So if you look at 4.4, it delivers to the first generation, so the X30, X50, G7500, it's able to deliver the 4.4. Inside the package, we also have the option to upgrade the cameras. So if you, for example, have an X70, it will deliver the 1.1 to the camera, the E70 camera inside. Similar, if you have an E60 connected over USB to an X70, you're able to upgrade it to 1.1, the E60. So that is, I think, really nice. It embeds all those software updates also for the camera, so you don't have to separately upgrade those devices. Now, looking at the specific builds, here you see a nice overview. Always get the questions about what is the general available build. So here you got a nice snapshot for yourself to compare that with your own environment. Now, what about the second gen? Here you see the logo popping up. So 4.4. 4.4 unlocks the X72 now with full functionality. So you can install the 4.4 on the X72, the X52 and the X32, which comes very soon. The 3.x or the 4.3 was not available on the X72, but now the X second generation is completely aligned now with the 4.4 release. So you can now safely upgrade your devices to this version. Same with the G62, supports the 4.4. And of course, if you got any camera connected, like the E70 inside the X72, you'll also upgrade that. And also if you got it through USB connected, or which I'll show you a bit later, we have the E60 now also IP connected, you're also able to push out the latest software to those devices. Really nice. Again, just a quick overview on the second gen devices with the software and the build version, so you got a very nice overview. And also I included here the modular room switch, which is a really nice one if you want to hook up multiple cameras, microphones, etc. We put in the Netgear switch and the Pro AV switch to make sure you're able to distribute that software to the different devices. But I will talk about this a bit later more, so you're able to see how that works in some specific environments. I got here a new one, the V series. Absolutely, so the V series is based on the second generation X series, so it's really powerful. But it's only a premium USB video bar. But it inherits all the functionality which we know from the Studio X family. So we got here version 1.4.0 now, which can be deployed on the V72, the V52 and soon of course the V32. You can hook up cameras through USB, you can use a Netgear switch, there's all different features and functionality. So as you can see, I'm really looking forward into the new year to be able to hook up all those different devices and get a sort of orchestration of all those devices working together. But the groundwork is being done to make sure we're able to do that. Here you see an overview of all the different builds and versions which you're able to deploy. So you can always create a snapshot here, so you got this all ready when you are for demonstration or you go in a production install or anything. You can check if you got those versions running on those specific devices. Upgrades or downgrades. So upgrades, you can easily do that if you come from version 4.1 and you shouldn't have any issues. You can upgrade directly to 4.4. You're gonna be on Android 10 and you gotta be on Android 10, same with version 4.4, and on the TC8 and TC10 you can see you're running Android 11. So make sure your policies in Intune, etc. are all prepared for those different Android versions. You got that ready and set up. Of course, your restore image, so if you do a pin reset it will automatically bring you back to version 4.4. So I think this is a really nice one in case there are any issues or something isn't running properly. You can always do a pin reset on the device and it will bring back a factory image on your Studio X family. Alright, so that was concerning the upgrades. And make sure if you are still on version 3.x, get your devices out of the cupboard. If you got TC8 or TC10 in the cupboard, make sure that all those devices are up to date so you can use them whenever needed. Downgrade use case. So it could even be that when you're running into some sort of issues and you need to downgrade to a specific version, that is also possible. So if you are on 4.4 and you select, for example, 4.1 in PolyLens, you should be able to show it up in the Studio X web interface. So it should show up there as version found 4.1, and then you're able to downgrade to that version. So you can always test with all the versions if needed. Now, be aware, if you downgrade, the Teams application, the Zoom application, that will stay up to date. If you really need to downgrade those applications, you need to do a pin reset. So go to version 4.1, do a pin reset, and that should bring you back to version 4.1, like firmware factory image level with the older Teams app. Now, what has been further optimized is the new out-of-box experience. So this was already introduced in the previous version, but it's getting like improved with every new version. And I'm trying to get rid of keyboards, mouses as much as possible. But of course, I can imagine as a guy installing the equipment or the consultant, I can imagine you always have a keyboard and a mouse with you in case needed with those devices. And also be aware, you only get this new out-of-box experience if you're using that 4.x, that latest version, because otherwise it won't give you that new experience. Now, the new experience is for all of the devices: DC8, DC10, Studio X30, X50, the first generation and the second gen, so the X32, X52, X72. These will all give you that new experience, but again, only if you got that 4.x version running. Now, what happens when you turn a device on? It will bring you on the DC8 or DC10, it will bring you that out-of-box experience, so you can choose a theme, the dark theme or the light theme, the language, set of the timers and some network things if you need to configure that. Then it will mention, do you want to make it a room controller to hook it up to Studio X, or do you want to make it, in case of the DC10, make it a scheduling panel and use it standalone. Now, if you choose it to be a room controller, then you will be prompted with an auto discovery of Studio X. So in the past you manually had to pair it to Studio X, and now it should show you a Studio X where you're able to pair it immediately with that device. So that is really nice. And then of course you put it into provider mode which you want to use it. So in case of Zoom or Teams, put in specific credentials and then you're able to use it. Now, let me give you a quick example of those rooms, because I really like this new out-of-box experience, really easy. So if you hook up, if you are on the latest version, if you hook it up to a screen, Studio X, you should be able to see on screen 1 the IP address and the serial number. So be aware that the sign-in, when you take it out of the box, is admin and the last 6 digits serial number, so you can always connect to the web UI if needed. On the TC8 or TC10, you will be walking through the web interface to the wizard, so you get the step-by-step guide. Choose their themes and then you'll be prompted with the device login. And this is the usual process. You type in the device login, you type in the credentials of the room, and you should be able to sign in. Really nice, quick and easy. Now, same for your scheduling panel. If you have it on a wall, just walk to the wizard. It will automatically also do an update check, so it will be one of the extra items in the wizard to do an update check, get to the latest version, will bring Teams up to date there, and then you can even hook it up to PolyLens if you want to, and then you're able to use it in your Teams environment, but specifically standalone, but also just out of the box, next, you're able to walk through the wizard to get started with that device. Similar for Zoom. So if you choose it to be a Zoom room, again, you will be prompted with all the information on the screen. You choose here to be a Zoom room. You will get the activation code on the touch panel. You go into the web device, the Zoom device management portal. You sign in, and then the devices should be quickly ready to go in your environment. Alright, are you ready for what's new 4.4? So as I said, there's a lot of exciting stuff happened in the 4.4. Of course, don't forget your coffee in between. very important, especially for me. I drink a lot of coffee, but people know that by now. What's new in the 4.4? Really excited. So it's really the groundwork being done for the 2025 year. We're gonna go with a lot of like IP cameras, and we're gonna build out with the 360 table camera, etc. So there's a lot of groundwork being done and ready for next year. So get your devices really up to date with those latest versions to make sure that you can keep up. Now, first, X72 with 4.4 is completely unlocked. So you got now all the features and functions available. The LLM port, which I will show you in a bit, to hook up additional cameras and mics, etc. Fully unlocked. So the X72 built for your larger room, and it's a really nice video bar, all in one. So all the same functionality which you know from Studio X. But the X72 has two lenses, so the top lens is more like a forward lens, which I will show in a bit how that looks like in your meeting room. And below we got a sort of near end lens, which is a wide angle lens, 120 degrees. So really powerful for that larger room to capture all the participants in there. It's got two tweeters, two subwoofers in there, so it's got a really powerful speaker audio here for your larger meeting room. Now, where I'm really enthusiastic about is it doesn't only have that like LAN port where you hook up you hook it up to the corporate LAN, similar as your TC10, which you also hook up to your corporate LAN. But in this case, we have this LLN port, which we call in the documentation now StudioNet. And so get ready for that new word, StudioNet. StudioNet is where you hook up all your additional accessoires on your network. It's completely separated from a corporate network. That is, I think, really important. It's just to hook up all the accessoires, and they have a dedicated network to communicate with each other. Now, first off, on that LLN network, you can hook up, for example, a table mic or a ceiling mic or an additional camera. That is a possibility, but be aware you need to use an injector. So the LLM port doesn't out of the box have power. So you need to get an injector then to be able to use it. So you can just use one additional camera over LLM. Or just one additional mic at the table. That is a possibility. Now, if you want to build this out for your really larger rooms, well, then you can get the Netgear Pro AV, the 4250, which is silentless, so you can easily integrate that to your meeting room. You can hook up additional cameras there. Really nice additional cameras, but also additional microphones. And we know those microphones from the G7500 IP connected or the ceiling microphones. I think this is a really powerful one. So you can get now into those larger rooms and extend that with more microphones and more cameras. And this is only available on the X72. Be aware of that. The X70, it has an LLM port, but it's not used with this release. It's only used on the X72. Now, a quick example. So this is a large educational room. So how does this look like? Well, if you look at the lenses of the camera, the lens underneath is 120 degrees. So it will give you the front row participants a good view. So you get a good overview of the first two rows. And then the second camera is for the far participants sitting further in the room. And of course you can use different tracking techniques, speaker framing, group framing, people framing. We know we got all those techniques in there to capture the participants in the room. Now with the X72 we can extend it with ceiling mics if you want to. We can extend it with additional camera. So there's a lot of possibilities now with those larger meeting rooms. I'm really looking forward to this. And this is just we're getting started with building out those rooms. So as I said, really excited about 2025. Now, one where I'm also really excited about is PolyLabs. So now we're giving the field access to innovative features from the product teams. So customers, partners, everybody's able to provide feedback now through PolyLens about new features which they're looking at. And so these are available also to the field. So it could be that when customers are not using it, that we're not going to bring it out as a GA feature. But if customers are really enthusiastic about it, they use it, and we get a lot of feedback, then it will probably become a GA feature at the end. And also, usually these lab features are not available on all devices. So I will put under every part of the PolyLabs, I will make sure that I put the different devices that are supported. And this is also mentioning in the PolyLens. So there's a couple of requirements. So it gives you early access. That is number one. It gives you early access to those new innovative features, which I really like. I always hunt down all those new features and trying to bring it out and show them to my customers as much as possible. So they're now able to test that. Be aware that these features are unsupported by regular support. So you cannot go, if you got a support contract, like you cannot go to the labs. You need to go in the Lens form, and in Lens you will find a feedback form specifically on those features, and there you can provide feedback. Now it's recommended of course to use a test room or a demo room. So assign that room as we're testing out certain new features, so the users who are going in that room are aware of that. And you need PolyLens. So even if you got one Studio X, you gotta make sure you got PolyLens, because this whole activation of those features, signing up for those lab features, is happening in PolyLens. And I will take you through that. I got also some hands-on for you ready, and so just be aware that I will take you through that step by step. Now, the first one, the first lab feature is the people count report. Yes, the people count report, really nice. So what does it do? It will count the participants in the room, the number of participants in the room, durations of calls, and not only for like if it's in Poly mode, but let's say you got Studio X in Teams, it will give you the duration of Teams and also the call use. So you will see exactly when the calls are started, stopped, and how many participants in the room. Really nice. So again, I recommend if you got one of those devices, X30, X50, X52, the X70, X72, so I will mention them all here below. Start using it, try it out, and let us know what you think of it. Provide us feedback. I guess even if you like it and there's no like comments on or technical issues, just provide feedback. Let us know what you like of this functionality, because I think this is a really awesome one, because you can analyze now the rooms and see how they are used. And maybe there are rooms where it's are usually for 12 persons, but they only sit 3 persons all the time, and maybe we gotta split the room or provide some additional smaller rooms. I think this is really something, if you look at personally, I think this is really something which we'll see the next couple of years. So getting much more analytics, using AI, machine learning, and get much more like insights in those meeting rooms. So this is a really, really nice one. People count. Now, what you need to do is, if you're gonna use, for example, X70, X72, or you're gonna use the G7500 with an E70 or the G62 with an E70, make sure that you put the camera to fast wake up. This is just a tip and trick. I know there's a lot of those stuff mentioning also in the release notes, but I always try to show them also here, so you got an idea if you're gonna work with those devices, that you put your camera to fast wake up to make sure that the lens is open, because it will measure the participants in the room even if there's no call. And it will just give a rough idea of the participants who are really using that room. Really, really nice feature. So this is one of the first lab features now available with 4.4. The next one is people on monitor filter. This is, I think, a really nice one, because we all have probably meeting rooms where you got multiple screens in that room, and sometimes it could be that people, foreign participants, are also showing on those rooms in the meeting rooms. Now, what happens normally, If you put, for example, on the group tracking on those cameras, it will automatically and include also the people on the screens. So with people on monitor filter is you're able to filter out those participants on the screen. It's, I think, a really nice one. And I have a short video here to walk you through that, to give you a rough estimation and how that looks like. So first off, you see here a meeting room. And so this meeting room includes a screen here on the side with a remote participant. We got here 2 participants sitting in the room. What happens normally if you turn on tracking? All the participants will be showing up here for remote participants. And it will also include the participant on the screen inside that tracking. This is something which we all know and used to. Now, if you then go into PolyLens, you go to the people on monitor filter and you turn that feature on, now you go back to the video and here you go. You have now both participants only in the screen and the TV is filtered from that. Really nice. So it's sort of now able to distinguish between 2D on the screen and 3D participants in the room. That is the first one. And yeah, I think personally a really nice one, which will hopefully something that also the field will appreciate. So please provide feedback through that PolyLens button, so they're able to get your feedback on that if it's usable in your environment. The next one is, I think, also really interesting one, because I've been in all those scenarios with participants showing on walls or people or pictures or the executive staff or queen or anybody on the side walls. But of course, if you then use tracking techniques, you want to be able to filter those participants from the tracking. Again, if you do the group tracking, it usually just look at the participants in the room and it will grab the participants from walls or in that room. Absolutely, because it's not able to distinguish that. Now, with stationary people filter, again available on the devices you see here below, you should be able to filter that out. Now, let me show you a quick video, because I think a video is always 1,000 words to give you an indication how that looks like. So here we are in a meeting room, which includes a picture of a participant. Normally, when we turn on the tracking, what you will see is that all the participants, including the picture, are being tracked by the framing techniques. Again, we'll go into PolyLens and we turn on the stationary filter. So we go just in there and we can specially select a device or a group if you want to. So we go in here, we turn on the stationary people filter, we go to activate, and what happens as soon as we activate that, here you go, we see now only the participants in the room. Just test it out in your meeting rooms, and again let us know through the feedback button. The next one, PolyLabs VoiceScoreAI. I think another great feature, which is using a sort of MOS score. This is really nice to give you an indication how the audio, the microphone, is performing in the meeting room. Is it able to hear the participants well? Do we need to do something with the acoustics or do something on the devices itself, configure something else? Because a user who comes in the meeting room just wants to use the device and they don't have any indication of if you need to change something or is the volume too low, or there's no indication. So if you're getting now some feedback that the room is not performing well, there is an option through PolyLabs, and that is VoiceScoreAI. So what you're able to do now is you'll be able to find when you activate that, and here you see the devices where it is available, it's able to provide you a score. And the score gives you how the room is performing. So you actually have an indication, like, do we need to optimize something? Do we need to change something to the acoustics? Do we need to change something in the configuration, etc.? VoiceScoreAI, really something which I recommend to get started with. Now, to show you this live, I got here also quick video. Now, first off, you see here the Studio X52 with the PolyLabs feature VoiceScoreAI turned on. Now, we have now a score of 0.64 and it will measure regularly, it will measure the room. Now, what it will do, it provides you some recommendations. So you can use acoustic vents to clear some noise out, or you can use Noise Block AI. What if we turn on now Noise Block AI? So what you will see, immediately the score is improved. So just by changing some of the settings, and I've been in many cases with proof of concepts with customers using the product for a while. There's really 9 of 10 times enabling Noise Block AI V2 really helped to solve those problems. If it didn't solve the problem, next step that you can do is hook up an extension mic. Get closer to the mouth of the speaker. Now, and what you immediately see, when hooking up the extension mic, the score gets even higher. Really simple. And so you got a little bit of an idea of how the room is measured looking at from the audio side. I think a really powerful feature. So, and these are all the lab features we have today in version 4.4. So you got people on monitor filter, we got stationary people filter, we have the VoiceScoreAI as I just showed you. Now, the next thing is, how does this all work together? So how do you activate PolyLabs features on your specific device? Well, that happens through PolyLens. And as usual, let me take you through that step by step to show you where can you find those PolyLab features and how can you activate them, how can you provide feedback, etc. So let me jump into my technical meeting room. Here we are in our technical meeting room. I think this is where a lot of people appreciate my YouTube channel, because showing some things hands-on is just more than 1,000 words. So let's get on it. So the first thing you need to do to activate PolyLab features is you go into your video endpoint. So let me go here into my video endpoint, make sure you got version 4.4 running on your device. So to use the lab features, your Studio X needs to be registered to PolyLens, a requirement, because otherwise you won't be able to activate these features. Now, you can onboard Studio X just by using it in the DHCP server, so you can add a DHCP flag, and then if the device boots up out of the box, it will be registered to PolyLens, but only at the first time. So only when you do an out of box or a factory reset, it will try to grab those settings from the DHCP server, and otherwise it won't grab it anymore. Now, if you got a single setup, a single test, you can also fill in the details here under servers, under provisioning servers, and you can find here all the details, which you can find in PolyLens in your tenant. And there you got your provisioning details, copy and paste that information in here, and then you're able to use it. Now, the next step is when you got 4.4 running, you see a new option here, PolyLabs. Now, PolyLabs is by default empty. So you need to make sure that you enroll within a lens for those type of lab features. And that makes sure, because we're gonna be working with lab features. These are not general available features, unsupported features. So it's just a way to sign off that you're going to able to use this, for example, on this device or on a group of devices. Now, when you start this process, you click on Launch PolyLens, and now we're directly jumping here into the PolyLens interface, into your tenant. And so it's good that you sign in directly or upfront to your tenant. So here it will directly jump to the page to activate them. Now, you also have an option right here in the menu where you can go to labs. Same thing. So you should be able to also go there. What you need to do is activate and enroll in PolyLabs. That's the only thing you need to do. It's really simple. So we activate it, we agree with the lab terms, we confirm that. And now successfully I got my lab features enabled. You will find the people count report, you will find people on monitoring filter, you will find stationary filter. Here you go, and we got the VoiceScoreAI. I think really easy to get started, and I would expect a lot more of those features, and also some of those features will become general available features. So let's, for example, click here on people count report. There you go, you see the supported devices, some information about the feature. Here you can activate it. So if I click on that, it will activate the feature. You can provide feedback. So if I click on that, you will be directed to another page where you can provide feedback. So do you use it? Do you have some additional comments? So even if you like it, I would recommend to just provide some feedback here through PolyLens. Really nice. And of course you got here a direct redirection. If I click on that, to the reports and the people count reports. And this one will measure then all the information when you're in the room. I think it's a really, really nice one. Start of the call, stop of the call, people count, etc. And so there's a lot of information being collected there to be able to use it. So how much is the room used? Which your rooms has the longest meetings? Which sites host bigger meetings, because it will it will measure the number of people in there. Here you see the devices supported. So I think this is a really, really nice one. Now, let's for example go to the people on monitor filter. Going to explore. Here you go. Now, you see here a quick video which I showed you earlier. So those videos are available within PolyLens. We're able to review those. Exact behavior, really powerful. Now you can activate it, and you can activate it on a specific device, group, or on an individual device. So here I would say activate it here on my X30, right? I would save and apply. Here you go. So I think it's really straightforward, but I just wanted to show you quickly how this works through Studio X device in combination with Lens. And here again you see the support of the devices today. Specifically in the labs it could be, and when it comes to GA feature that more devices will probably be supported, but this is now supported through the labs. If you need to reconfigure or add additional devices with rooms which you want to do for testing, you can go to configure, and here you can add individual devices if needed. And that's it. We got all the functionalities which we wanted to enable. We have them enabled now, and you see the people count is activated, people on monitoring filter is activated. You can activate stationary people filter, so these are the pictures on the wall, and you can, for example, activate VoiceScoreAI. Really nice for your meeting room and to measure the quality. So these are available through PolyLabs and very easy to activate. All right, let's go to the next one. And of course, don't forget to take some coffee in between. Live perimeter setup. So this is, I think, a really nice one, which also should talk to a lot of people. You got those meeting rooms, you got a lot of glass around you. What will happen if you then use tracking techniques? Participants standing on the side, usually with a cup of coffee, they're also being taken into the tracking. Just really simple. And so what they usually do, they turn the tracking off and they manually set it, but it's not optimal to get that meeting equality in the room and get that optimal experience. So now with TCOS, so the touch controller software 6.4 or later, you're able to turn now on perimeter live setup. As I said, a video is 1,000 words. So let me quickly show you how that looks like. Here, quick example, a meeting room with some glass. So we got Brian here walking outside the glass. We got here Bob sitting inside the meeting room. Now Studio X doesn't know that Brian is walking outside the meeting room. So what we can do now is we can go into the TC10. We can go there to the perimeter live setup. and now we can configure specific range for that meeting room. It's admin protected and not every user can do that. In the room we have a blue zone and a red zone, so we can move the blue zone and the red zone so that it exactly fits the meeting room. So let's say Brian is walking over there. Let's make it a little bit smaller, the blue zone. What you will see, Brian is now outside the zone and becomes red. Let me make it a little bit bigger now, and now Brian is inside. So you can exactly define the participants inside the meeting room. Tracking makes sure that you are really only tracked with the participants in the room. I think this is a really powerful feature available now on X30, X50, X52, the TC10 admin protected, and yeah, it will probably also become available in more devices, but this is now with the 4.4 release available. Alright, as this is Jan's Coffee Tech, I also got some hands on, so let me show you where you can find the parameter live setup on the TC10. So here I can show you live the features and functions which I'm walking through and show you how to configure them and where to find them. So in this meeting room, as you can see, I got a TC10 now here and I made it a bit bigger, so you're able to see all the information that I will be showing, and that is the TC10 which I have right here. Now, where do you configure the live parameter setup? Well, the easiest one is here, go into the side menu and you can swipe just from the left side. You're able to pop up this additional menu. Then we click on the camera settings, then all the way below you'll be able to find the DirectorAI parameter. We click on that. This will bring you to an admin protected interface where you need to sign in. Alright, we sign in there, and now we can configure live the parameter setup. So you will see on the TV UI, you will see the blue and the red participants, so you're able to see who's inside the tracking, who's outside the tracking. We can turn the tracking off here, so if you don't want to use it, you can also turn it on. We can look at a quick snapshot of how to use it. So there is some explanation and it will show you the behavior which you're seeing in the meeting room. Just a quick help. We can reset it, so that makes sure that you reset it. Everything is disabled, and if I turn it on now, you will see that tracking is now throughout the room. And again, I can define now the exact table where you want to track the participants. And if people are standing outside in that red zone, they're not being tracked. So they're outside speaker track, group track, people framing, and they're outside all the tracking options that are there. I think a really powerful feature. Alright, let's continue, because there's a lot of exciting stuff in the PolyOS 4.4. The next one, specifically for the X52 hearing augmentation. So if you have people who have hearing issues, we have now the option by using an external sound card to Creative Labs Sound Blaster USB. You hook that up through the X52, and then you are able to use the microphone output, the analog microphone output here through a headset. Really nice. Not the input. So be aware of that, not the input, because otherwise you could get sound loops or something, so the participants in the room are just talking here and using the microphones which are available there. You don't use the microphones in the headset. So this is available now on the X52. How do you set it up? Well, you go in the web UI, probably also to PolyLens, and there you can enable the hearing augmentation over USB. As a setting you can enable, and as soon as you do that, you will get far end and near end audio through the headset. I think a really powerful feature for some specific use cases. Another new feature in the 4.4 is the PolyConnect call control. Not really a feature, it's more an application. So in cooperation with PexIP, we create an application where you can now control your VMR through the TC10. So let me show you that. So as soon as you dial into a PexIP virtual meeting room, you will be able to get an additional button, the meeting control button. Now, if you click on that, you get another menu, and here you can hand raise, you can mute participants, you can assign a host, you can see the chat, you can spotlight people, really powerful. So this is available now in PolyOS 4.4 in combination with the PexIP platform. So I think also a really powerful feature which make life a lot easier. I can imagine in the past where you gotta use DTMF tones or specific number codes to do some of those things. This is now available through an application, so it makes it very usable for the people in the field. Another great new feature in the 4.4 release, specifically made for the TC10, because if you pair it up with the Studio X, it will inherit all the features and functions from the Studio X to be able to control your meeting. But in case you use it standalone, you need to have some functionality on the TC10 itself. So now it will support with the VideoOS 6.4, it will support the automatic proxy discovery. So by default with this version we have the discovery enabled for the proxy server. So it will try to grab through the HTTP, through the network, it will try to connect to the outside world. And if it cannot connect to the proxy, it will fall back to a direct connection. But it always tries to use the proxy from this version onwards. Another new feature introduced with version 4.4 is an enhancement to the device mode. So in the device mode, you're able to use camera, speaker and mic from your Studio X or your G family. You're able to use that on your laptop. So in case you got a WebEx meeting there or any other video conference meeting, you can just reuse it. Now with this release, you got the ability now to custom this background. So you can use this when you're in Teams and you can fall back to the device mode. When you're in Zoom, you can fall back to the device mode. If something is not working, you can put now here QR code to support or a telephone number or anything to make sure that if people are in this room, they really got this corporate feeling using those devices. Another great new feature introduced with PolyOS 4.4 is TCA TC10 remote control. And this is one which I've been talking about for a while, because I know a lot of customers have locations around the world and they don't have IT available at every location, and sometimes you just want to connect to it remotely and change some settings or do a reboot or support the user. And there's a lot of things which I can imagine to do this remote control. So this is now available. So we don't have to wait anymore for this to use it. You use this through PolyLens. So you will be able to see now TC8 or TC10 a remote control button. And of course, you're here in Jan's coffee tech, so let me show you hands-on how this feature and functionality looks like. And you're gonna be really impressed. Here we go. Welcome again in the hands-on room of Jan's coffee tech. This is, I guess, why a lot of people appreciate my channel, just to walk you through some of those things hands-on. So, as I told you, we got TC8, TC10 remote control now available. Now, let me show you how this looks like. So you got a little bit of an idea how easy that is. So let me go here to my inventory. Let me search for a TC10. Here we go. So we got some TC10s available here. Let me click on a TC10. And what you will notice on the left side, you see the option now, remote control. Depending on your license, because you need to have Poly Plus Enterprise, that is important. Now, if you don't have it, you can always go here to Poly Plus Enterprise and enable your trial. So you can start playing with it and see if it's usable for your company. I personally think this is usable for anybody, even if you have a couple of devices, so that you got always the possibility to remotely support you. So let me click on it. What will happen is I'm checking now if the room is available. If it's not available, people can now press on that TC10 and say, oh, I don't want to have any remote control, because people are sitting there. If they don't touch it, within 30 seconds, it will automatically give me access to that TC8 or TC10 device. So you always have the possibility to go in there when there's nobody I mean, we expect that nobody is there in that room. And then we can just remote control the device. And here you go. So in this case, there is nobody in this room, and I'm now remotely connected to this TC10 panel. So I can click on place a call, and this can be, of course, in Teams or in Zoom, but I can now remotely just control the device, just press some of those buttons here, go to the contact book, really powerful. I can go here to the settings, if I want to check something on the panel, just see if we can find here on the information, try to find some of the hardware information, so you can really collect something specifically from this device. And not only through like a panel at the table, no, you can also just go, and let me go back right here, you can also go to a scheduling panel, so also the standalone device. So I go here again to the TC10, and this is a room booking panel, so this is a device without the Studio X app. Again, you will have here the remote access button. Let me click on that, just to show you all the use cases. Again, I really like this feature, because yeah, I know that a lot of people just have those locations out there where they just want to reach out and support. You can do this again, you can do this also when the device is in Teams mode. When it's signed off, you can just go in there and sign it in. On Zoom, the same thing. If you got maybe some camera settings incorrectly configured or something, or there is some error message there, you're able to review that. Again, you need to wait 30 seconds just to make sure that nobody's in the room. And here you go. We have now here remote control to this scheduling panel. Again, this can be in Teams or in Zoom. And I can go here in Teams to the specific settings, check the application, go to help, go to about, I can log in there and just check, you know, what version is running, what version of the application. That is always handy. So at least we have always a way to go into those devices to give them some support. As soon as you're finished, you can click here on end session, but also people inside the room. So inside the room, they will have this button on the screen there, and they also see that blue bar, so they always know that somebody is watching remotely, but they can also click this in the room and click on end session. This will end the session inside the room. And if you want to do it remotely, you can do the same thing, just click on end session and the remote control session has ended. Just a really nice and easy feature. I've been testing this for a while and it works really good. Just try it out and get that enterprise, the Poly Plus enterprise license to enable those premium features, and yeah, start trying and testing it and see if this is yeah, working for your environment. Another new feature on the TC8 and TC10 are AV controls. So normally you will have a control on your table for your video conference device, and you have a control for your environment, like your lighting, the screens, the shades, air conditioning, etc. Now you can combine both of them through an HTML5 interface. And you see we've tested several providers like Extron and Lightware, so they are able to bypass an authentication layer if needed. And we tested some other providers like Crestron, Etology, AMX, so it should all work because it's just an HTML5 browser now, which enables access to those backend platforms, which just have a web server running and shows you that control interface. So you can completely configure that control interface the way you like. But the nice thing is you can combine it now. Now, where do you configure that? Well, you can configure that on the TC10 itself through the web interface. So you add there the location of the control device, weather authentication if needed. As soon as you've configured that, you will get an AV control option. And if you click on that, it will show you that control interface. But of course, let me quickly show you where you can find that. Alright, here we are back in Jan's Coffee Tech hands-on meeting room. So where can you find that button? It's the same location. We go here on the sign, and on the side you will see now the option AV control. And as I'm in my home office now, what I've configured is, of course, all the AV controls here in my home office. So of course I can heat up the pool, I can set up the heating in my house, some lighting, look at the security cameras, so very flexible. And where do you jump out? You go here on the side menu, you click on home, and we're back into the Teams environment or in the Zoom environment or any application you have running. So it's a very flexible and easy setting you have access to. So here you can combine like two control panels and combine them in one.